The rain came down in sheets, soaking through my jacket, my shoes, my soul. I stood at the edge of the sidewalk in downtown Seattle, watching headlights blur into streaks of red and gold, each one a reminder that the world kept moving while mine had collapsed. 3 days ago, I'd lost everything: my job, my apartment, my family's approval, and the weight of it crushed me until I couldn't breathe. I was Ethan Caldwell, 25, a nobody with a degree in graphic design that hadn't landed me a single gig in months. The tech startup I'd poured my heart into had folded, leaving me with a pink slip and a bank account in the red. My parents, devout and unyielding, had cut me off when I came out last year. Their voices cold over the phone: "You've chosen sin, Ethan. Don't come back." And now, the landlord had bolted my door, my belongings stuffed into a dumpster behind the building. I had nothing left but the clothes on my back and a phone with 3% battery. But then there was Noah. Noah Harper, 27, with his steady blue eyes and a smile that could pull me back from the edge of despair. He found me that night, shivering under the awning of a closed coffee shop, my pride too broken to ask for help. "Ethan," he said, his voice soft but firm, "you're not doing this alone." He didn't ask what happened. He just took my hand, his calloused fingers warm against my cold ones, and led me to his car. Noah was a carpenter, his hands always dusted with sawdust, his flannel shirts smelling faintly of cedar. We'd met 6 months ago at a bar in Capitol Hill, where I'd been drowning my fears in cheap whiskey, and he'd been nursing a beer, watching me with quiet curiosity. He wasn't loud or flashy like the guys I'd fallen for before, guys who promised the world and left me empty. Noah was different. He listened. He showed up. And now, as the rain battered the windshield of his old pickup, he was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice hoarse, barely audible over the hum of the engine. "My place," he said simply. "You're staying with me." I wanted to argue, to tell him I wasn't his burden, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I leaned my head against the window, watching the city lights smear into a kaleidoscope of colors. Noah's apartment was a small, cluttered space above a hardware store in Fremont, filled with half-finished furniture projects and stacks of dog-eared books. It wasn't much, but it felt like a sanctuary compared to the street. He handed me a towel, a dry sweatshirt, and a mug of instant coffee, his eyes searching mine for something I wasn't ready to give trust. Maybe. Or hope. "You don't have to talk," he said, sitting across from me on a sagging couch. "But I'm here when you do." I stared into the coffee, the steam curling up like a ghost. I don't even know where to start. "Noah, I've got nothing. No job. No home. No family. I'm nothing." He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his gaze unwavering. "You're not nothing, Ethan. You're you. And that's enough for me." His words hit me like a punch, cracking open something raw and aching inside. I wanted to believe him, but the shame of my failures clung to me like damp clothes. How could I be enough when I'd lost everything that made me me? Over the next few days, Noah didn't push. He gave me space, letting me sleep on his couch, sharing his meals, and filling the silence with stories about his latest projects or the stray cat that kept sneaking into his workshop. But the city outside his apartment felt like a war zone I wasn't ready to face. I'd scroll through job boards on his ancient laptop, each rejection email a fresh wound. I avoided mirrors, afraid of the hollow-eyed strangers staring back. One night, as we sat on his tiny balcony overlooking the flickering lights of Fremont, Noah handed me a beer and said, "You know, I lost everything once too." I turned to him, surprised. Noah always seemed so steady, so unshakable. "What do you mean?" He took a long sip, his eyes distant. "Grew up in Idaho. Small town. Smaller minds. When I came out at 19, my dad kicked me out. No warning. No goodbye. I spent a year couch surfing, scraping by on odd jobs. Thought I'd never climb out of that hole." "How did you?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Found people who believed in me. A mentor who taught me carpentry. Friends who didn't care who I loved. And I decided I wasn't going to let their hate define me." He looked at me, his expression fierce. "You're stronger than you think, Ethan. You just need to give yourself a chance." His words stayed with me, a flicker of light in the dark. But the weight of my losses still pressed down, and I wasn't sure I could find the strength he saw in me. Not yet. The days blurred into weeks, and Noah's apartment became my fragile lifeline. I'd wake to the sound of his coffee maker gurgling, the scent of sawdust clinging to his clothes as he headed to his workshop. He never asked for rent, never made me feel like a burden, but the guilt gnawed at me. I was living off his kindness, and every day I stayed, I felt like I was stealing something from him. One morning, I found a note taped to the fridge, "Job fair downtown. Go with me." My stomach twisted. The idea of facing a crowd of polished professionals with my crumpled resume made me want to crawl back to the couch. But Noah's handwriting, steady and sure, felt like a challenge I couldn't ignore. The job fair was a chaotic maze of booths and forced smiles at the Seattle Convention Center. I clutched my resume, my palms sweaty, as recruiters glanced at me with polite disinterest. Noah, dressed in his usual flannel, stood out among the suits, his presence grounding me. "Just talk to one person," he whispered. "Start small." I approached a booth for a small design agency, stammering through my pitch. The recruiter, a woman with sharp eyes, skimmed my portfolio and nodded. "You've got talent," she said, "but we need someone with more experience." The rejection stung, but Noah's hand on my shoulder kept me from spiraling. "One step at a time," he said as we left, the city's gray skyline looming above us. "You showed up. That's more than you did yesterday." Back at his apartment, I sank into the couch, frustration simmering. "Why do you keep believing in me?" I snapped, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "I'm a mess. Noah. You could do better than dragging me around like some charity case." His face tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "You're not a charity case, Ethan. I'm here because I care about you. Because I see who you are, even if you don't." His words hung in the air, heavy with truth I wasn't ready to face. I turned away, staring at the rain streaking down the window. That night, I couldn't sleep, haunted by the fear that I'd dragged Noah down with me. He deserved someone whole, someone who wasn't broken. The next day, I forced myself to apply for freelance gigs, scraping together a few logo designs for local businesses. The pay was meager, but it was something. Noah celebrated every small win, leaving sticky notes on my laptop. "You're killing it," or "Proud of you." His encouragement felt like a lifeline, but it also terrified me. What if I let him down too? One evening, as we walked through Pike Place Market, the air thick with the smell of fish and flowers, Noah stopped at a stall selling handmade journals. He bought one, its leather cover soft and worn, and handed it to me. "Write your story," he said. "Not the one you think you are, but the one you want to be." I laughed it off. But later, alone in his apartment, I opened the journal and stared at the blank pages. My hand shook as I wrote, "I want to be enough." The words felt like a confession, a prayer, a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. But the world outside Noah's apartment wasn't kind. A week later, I got a call from my sister, Claire, the only family member who hadn't fully shut me out. Her voice was strained. "Mom's sick. Ethan. Cancer. She's asking for you." The news hit like a freight train. I hadn't spoken to my mother in over a year, not since she'd called my love for Noah a sin. The thought of facing her, of stepping back into the home that had rejected me, made my chest tighten. "I don't know if I can do this," I told Noah that night, my voice breaking. He knelt in front of me, his hands on mine. "You don't have to go alone. I'll be with you. Every step." His promise anchored me. But as we booked bus tickets to my hometown in Spokane, doubt crept in. Could I face my family's judgment again? And could Noah's strength carry us both through the storm waiting for me? The bus to Spokane smelled of stale coffee and diesel, the seats worn and sticky. I sat by the window, watching the Cascades fade into the flat expanse of eastern Washington, each mile pulling me closer to a past I'd tried to bury. Noah sat beside me, his knee brushing mine, a quiet reminder that I wasn't alone. Spokane hadn't changed in a year, same quiet streets, same church steeples piercing the skyline. My childhood home, a modest ranch-style house with peeling paint, felt like a stranger's now. Claire met us at the door, her eyes red from crying. "She's in the living room," she whispered, glancing at Noah with cautious curiosity. My mother lay on a recliner, a blanket draped over her frail frame. Her hair, once thick and dark like mine, was gone, replaced by a scarf tied loosely around her head. Her eyes, sharp with judgment the last time we'd spoken, softened when they met mine. "Ethan," she said, her voice weak but warm. I froze, the weight of a year's silence pressing down. Noah's hand grazed my back, a subtle nudge forward. I sat beside her, words tangling in my throat. "Mom, You don't have to say anything," she interrupted, her hand trembling as it reached for mine. "I was wrong. Ethan. I'm so sorry." Her apology cracked something inside me, A dam breaking loose. We talked for hours. Her words halting but sincere, unraveling years of pain. She spoke of regret, of fear, of a love she hadn't known how to show. I told her about my life in Seattle, about losing everything, about Noah. She listened, her eyes flickering to him with something like gratitude. Noah stayed quiet, his presence steady as he helped Claire with dinner or fetched water for my mom. But I saw the strain in his jaw, the way he deflected my father's cold stares. Dad hadn't softened like Mom. His silence was a wall, his disapproval a shadow over the house. That night, in Claire's guest room, I couldn't sleep. Noah lay beside me, his arm draped over my waist. "You okay?" he whispered. "I don't know," I admitted. "She's trying." "But Dad," he looks at me like I'm a stranger. Noah pulled me closer. "You're not a stranger. You're their son. And you're my everything." His words warmed me, but the next day brought new cracks. Dad cornered me in the kitchen, his voice low and hard. "You think you can just waltz back here with him and act like nothing's changed?" "He's my partner," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "And he's the only reason I'm standing here." Dad's face darkened, and he walked away without another word. The rejection stung, but Noah's hand found mine, his grip a lifeline. We stayed for 3 days, balancing fragile moments of reconciliation with Mom and the weight of Dad's silence. When we left, Mom pressed a small cross necklace into my hand, her eyes wet. "I love you, Ethan. Always." The bus ride back to Seattle was quieter, heavier. I clutched the necklace, torn between hope and hurt. Noah sensed it, his fingers tracing circles on my palm. "You faced it," he said. "That's more than most people could do." Back in Seattle, I threw myself into freelancing, determined to rebuild. I landed a small contract with a local cafe, designing their menu boards. It wasn't much, but it felt like a victory. Noah framed my first paycheck, hanging it on his apartment wall with a grin. "First of many," he said. But the city wasn't done testing me. One night, as we walked home from a diner, 2 guys in hoodies followed us, their slurs cutting through the dark. Noah stepped in front of me, his voice steady. "Walk away," he told them, his hands raised but firm. They didn't. One shoved Noah, and my heart stopped as he stumbled. I lunged forward, fear and fury mixing, but Noah grabbed my arm. "Don't, Ethan. They're not worth it." The guys laughed and disappeared into the night, leaving me shaking with rage. Noah pulled me close, his breath warm against my ear. "We're okay," he whispered. "We're okay." But I wasn't. The world felt like it was closing in, and even Noah's strength couldn't shield me from it all. The incident in the alley left a bruise on my soul, one that didn't fade with time. Seattle's streets, once vibrant with possibility, now felt like a minefield. I started checking over my shoulder, my heart racing at every shadow. Noah noticed, his eyes narrowing with concern. But he didn't push. Instead, he started walking me to the cafe where I worked on their signage. his hand brushing mine as if to say, "I'm here." My freelance gigs grew, small but steady. I designed flyers for a bookstore, a logo for a food truck. Each job chipped away at the debt I'd racked up. But the bigger battle was inside. I'd wake from nightmares of my father's glare, my mother's frail hand, or those slurs in the dark. Noah's journal sat on the coffee table, its pages still mostly blank. I wanted to write the story of who I could be, but fear kept my pen still. One evening, Noah came home with a flyer for a local art show, his eyes bright. "They're looking for new artists," he said, tossing it onto the couch. "Your designs would kill it." I laughed, shaking my head. "I'm not ready for that. Those people are real artists. Noah. I'm just scraping by." He sat beside me, his knee touching mine. "You're a real artist, Ethan. You just need to believe it." His faith in me was a weight and a gift. I spent nights sketching, pouring my pain into bold lines and vibrant colors. I submitted a piece to the show, a digital painting of two hands clasped against a stormy sky, inspired by Noah's grip in that alley. When I got the acceptance email, I stared at it, disbelieving, until Noah hooped and lifted me off the couch in a bear hug. The art show was in a warehouse in Soto, all exposed brick and fairy lights. My piece hung among others, its colors glowing under the spotlights. Strangers stopped to admire it, their murmurs a quiet validation. Noah stood beside me, his arm around my shoulders, pride radiating from him. "Told you," he whispered. But the high didn't last. The next morning, I got a call from Claire. "Mom's worse," she said, her voice tight. "They're saying weeks, maybe days." The news knocked the air from me. I hadn't realized how much I'd clung to the hope of more time with her. Noah booked us tickets back to Spokane that night, his calm efficiency a contrast to my spiraling panic. On the bus, I leaned into him, my head on his shoulder. "What if I'm not ready to lose her?" I whispered. "You don't have to be ready," he said. "You just have to be there." In Spokane, the house felt like a tomb. Mom was weaker, her voice barely a whisper. Dad's silence was louder now, his eyes avoiding mine. I spent hours by Mom's side, reading to her from her favorite books, her hand limp in mine. One night, she squeezed my fingers and said, "I'm proud of you, Ethan, for being you." Her words broke me. I cried in Noah's arms that night, his shirt damp with my tears. "She's proud of me," I said, the words foreign and precious. "She always was," Noah said. "She just needed time to see it." Mom passed 2 days later, her breath fading as Claire and I held her hands. Dad stood in the corner, his face unreadable. At the funeral, he didn't speak to me, his grief a wall I couldn't breach. Noah stayed by my side, his presence a shield against the pain. Back in Seattle, I threw myself into my art, channeling grief into every stroke. The cafe offered me a mural project, a chance to paint their exterior wall. I sketched late into the night, Noah bringing me coffee and quiet encouragement. But the weight of loss and fear lingered, and I wondered if I'd ever feel whole again. The mural project became my obsession. The cafe's blank wall was a canvas for something bigger than me. A chance to leave a mark on a city that had tried to break me. I painted two figures, their silhouettes intertwined against a backdrop of Seattle's skyline, their hands reaching for a burst of color, a symbol of hope, of love, of survival. Noah helped me mix paints, his laughter easing the ache in my chest. "You're building something," he said one day, watching me climb the ladder. "Not just this mural, but you. You're coming back." I wanted to believe him, but grief was a shadow that followed me. I'd see Mom's scarf in my dreams, hear her voice in quiet moments. My father's silence haunted me too, a reminder of the family I'd never fully reclaim. Noah saw it all, his patience endless, but I could feel the strain in his tired smiles. I was leaning on him too hard, and it scared me. One night, as we sat on his balcony, the city humming below, I said, "I'm afraid I'm breaking you too. Noah, you're carrying so much for me." He set his beard down, his eyes locking on mine. "You're not breaking me, Ethan. Loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done." His words hit like a tidal wave, washing away my doubts. I kissed him, fierce and desperate, needing to feel him, to know he was real. He kissed me back, his hands steady on my face, grounding me in a way nothing else could. The mural's unveiling drew a small crowd, locals and artists snapping photos. The cafe owner shook my hand, offering me a permanent design gig. It was a lifeline, a chance to stand on my own. Noah grinned, his arm around me, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, worry. Maybe. Or exhaustion. That night, I opened the journal he'd given me and wrote, "I want to be the strength he sees in me." The words felt like a vow, a promise to fight for myself, for us. But the world had other plans. A week later, Noah came home from his workshop, his face pale. "They're cutting hours," he said. "Economy's tight. I might lose the shop." The news rocked me. Noah's workshop was his heart, his sanctuary. The thought of him losing it, after all he'd carried for me, was unbearable. "We'll figure it out," I said, my voice firm despite the panic rising in me. "Together." He nodded, but his smile was thin. For the first time, I saw cracks in his strength, and it terrified me. I'd leaned on him for so long, but now he needed me. Could I be enough for him, the way he'd been for me? I started hustling harder, taking every freelance job I could find. I designed posters, menus, even a website for a local band. The money wasn't much, but it kept us afloat. Noah worked late, his hands raw from extra projects, his optimism strained but never gone. One night, as we lay in bed, I traced the lines of his face, memorizing every detail. "I'm going to fight for you," I whispered. "Like you fought for me." He smiled, his eyes soft. "We fight for each other, Ethan. That's how this works." His words became my mantra. I pushed harder, landing a contract with a marketing firm, my biggest gig yet. The money was enough to cover Noah's rent for the workshop. But the relief was short-lived. The city, with its endless challenges, wasn't done with us yet. The marketing contract was a lifeline, but it came with pressure. Deadlines loomed. Clients nitpicked. And I spent nights hunched over my laptop, my eyes burning. Noah was there, bringing me coffee, rubbing my shoulders. His quiet strength a reminder of what I was fighting for. But his workshop was still on the edge. The landlord raising rent despite the economy. "We'll make it," I told him one morning, my voice more confident than I felt. He nodded, but the worry in his eyes was a mirror of my own. I started networking, something I'd always avoided. I attended local art events, shaking hands with gallery owners and designers. My palms sweaty but my pitch steady. Noah came with me when he could, his presence calming my nerves. At one event, a gallery owner named Maria took interest in my work, offering to feature my pieces in a group show. It was a chance to get my name out, to build something lasting. But the city's cruelty didn't let up. One night, as we walked home from a late dinner, a group of guys shouted slurs from across the street. Noah's jaw tightened, but he kept walking, his hand gripping mine. "Ignore them," he muttered, but I could feel his tension, the same fear I'd carried since the alley. At home, I exploded. "Why does it have to be like this?" I yelled, pacing the apartment. "Why can't we just live without looking over our shoulders?" Noah pulled me into his arms, his voice steady. "Because we're here, Ethan. We're out. We're together. And that scares people. But we don't stop living because of them." His words grounded me, but the fear lingered. I poured it into my art, creating pieces that screamed with color and defiance. Maria loved them, scheduling my show for next month. It was a chance to prove myself, to show the world I was more than my losses. Noah's workshop, though, was slipping. He got a notice from the landlord: pay the new rent or vacate in 30 days. I saw the strain in his shoulders, the way he stayed up late sketching furniture designs, hoping for a miracle. I felt helpless, but I refused to let him fall. I pitched an idea to Maria, a charity auction at the gallery, featuring my art and Noah's furniture. She loved it, and we spent weeks preparing. Noah built a stunning cedar table, its lines sleek and strong. Like him, I painted a series inspired by our journey hands clasped, storms fading into light. The auction was a whirlwind. Locals bid generously, moved by our story, which Maria had woven into the event's narrative. We raised enough to cover Noah's rent for 6 months, a temporary reprieve. He hugged me under the gallery's lights, his voice thick. "You saved me, Ethan." "No," I said, my eyes burning. "We saved each other." But the victory was bittersweet. The next day, I got an email from my father. "I saw your art online. It's good. But don't come back." The words cut deep, a reminder of the family I'd never fully reclaim. Noah held me as I cried, his arms my only home. I opened the journal that night, writing, "I am enough." And so is he. The words felt truer now, But the world's weight still pressed down. Could we keep fighting? Together. Against the odds. The gallery show was a turning point. My name started circulating, and freelance offers poured in bigger projects. Better pay. I moved off Noah's couch into his bed, our lives intertwining more deeply. His workshop was safe for now, but the landlord's greed loomed, a reminder that nothing was certain. We fell into a rhythm, balancing work and love. Mornings were coffee and quiet kisses. Nights were shared dreams and late-night sketches. But the city's hostility didn't fade. We'd get stares, whispered slurs, the occasional shove in a crowded bar. Each one chipped at me, but Noah's hand in mine kept me steady. One day, Maria called with an offer, a solo show at her gallery, a chance to cement my career. The catch: it was in 3 months, and I need a new series, something bold and personal. I was terrified but exhilarated. Noah saw it in my eyes and grinned. "You've got this," he said, kissing my forehead. I dove into the project, painting late into the night. The series was raw portraits of us, of love in the face of hate, of strength born from loss. Noah inspired every brushstroke, his resilience my muse. He started building again, crafting pieces for the show, his hands steady despite the uncertainty of his workshop's future. But life wasn't done testing us. One night, Noah came home limping, his lip bloody. "Some guys outside the workshop," he said, his voice tight. "They didn't like my pride sticker." Rage surged through me, but he shook his head. "Don't, Ethan. It's not worth it." I cleaned his cuts, my hands shaking. "I'm tired of this," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm tired of being afraid." He cupped my face, his eyes fierce. "Then we keep going. We live louder, love harder. They don't get to win." His words fueled me. I painted with fury, my series becoming a battle cry. The show's opening was packed, the gallery buzzing with energy. My paintings sold, critics raved, and Noah's furniture drew gasps. We stood together, hands clasped, a quiet victory in a world that tried to tear us down. But the high was fleeting. The next morning, Noah got a call. The landlord was selling the building. The workshop was done. He sat on the couch, head in his hands, and for the first time, I saw him break. "I can't lose this," he whispered. "It's all I have." "You have me," I said, kneeling beside him. "And we'll find a way." I reached out to Maria, who connected us with a local artist collective. They had a shared space, affordable, where Noah could work. It wasn't his, but it was something. We moved his tools in a weekend, my paintings funding the deposit. Noah's smile returned, faint but real. That night, I wrote in the journal, "We are unstoppable. Together." The words felt like a promise, one I was finally ready to keep. But the world, as always, had one more test. The new workshop space was cramped, but Noah made it his own, his tools lined up like soldiers. My career was soaring, galleries called, Clients emailed, and I was saving for a place of our own. We were building a life, brick by brick, against the odds. But the city's shadows never left us. One night, as we walked through Capitol Hill, a man spat at us, his words venomous. Noah pulled me away, his grip tight, but I saw the hurt in his eyes. At home, I broke. "I'm done running," I said, my voice raw. "I want to fight back." Noah looked at me, his expression torn. Fighting back doesn't always mean fists, Ethan. Sometimes it's living well, loving openly. His words sank in, and I realized he was right. Our love, our art, our resilience, that was our rebellion. I poured it into a new project, a public mural, funded by the city, celebrating queer love. Noah helped, sketching designs, hauling paint. The mural took shape in a park, two figures embracing under a rainbow sky, their faces inspired by us. The unveiling was a celebration, the park filled with allies and artists. Strangers thanked us, their stories mirroring ours. For the first time, I felt like we belonged. Noah kissed me under the mural, the crowd cheering, and I knew we'd won, not against the world, but for ourselves. Months later, we moved into a small apartment, our names on the lease. I framed a journal, its pages filled with my journey from lost to love. Noah hung it above our bed, his smile warm. "You wrote your story," he said. "No," I said, pulling him close. "We wrote it." My father's email came a year later. Short and stiff. "I saw your mural. I'm trying to understand." It wasn't much, but it was a crack in the wall. I didn't need his approval anymore, but I hoped for it. For him. As I stood with Noah, looking out over Seattle's skyline, I realized he wasn't just my lover. He was the strength that saved me, the mirror that showed me who I could be. And I was his. Together, we'd faced loss, hate, and fear, and we'd built something unbreakable. The world would always have its shadows, but we had each other, and that was enough.